Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast, a podcast where we discuss our thoughts on gaming news. I am Angelus de Mortiel, together with Kev the Gamer.
Spaghetti is amazing.
MajorStupidity.
What's up?
Deathshroud09.
How's it going?
And back. Together we're joined by Zyphon once again.
I'm that guy that, does stuff.
And things.
The guys do things.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. And so we're going to go ahead and start off in our usual fashion here by talking about absolute nonsense and occasionally, once in a while, discussing how Joe's a console peasant still.
Peasantry!
I am.
Yes. No. So what have you guys been playing this week? We'll go ahead and start with you, Kev.
I've been playing Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Despite what Morty said, we had the conversation in the Skype call earlier. I still believe it's a great port.
Yeah, I have some. It's just personal beliefs on it that I kind of have an issue with the way that they handle that. Is essentially that. So Joe and Kev both believe that games should have high-end top room for people that have the,
I thought it was an interesting idea. I didn't say I was like...
Well, I mean, a lot of games have it. Like GTA 5 have it, The Witcher have it, space for people who have like an SLI configuration. Not just, I have a single 980 Ti, so I can max out, everything at like 1440 and 1080. I don't think they should limit the games in that way.
I'm of the belief that that a game at 1080p, 60 frames per second, should be completely maxed out at ultra settings with, say, something like a 390X or a 980.
It would be.
Above that, like your 980 Ti's, your Titans, etc., your really super exotic cards like that should only be for if you have like crazy setups, like you're running 3 1440p monitors or you have a 4K monitor or something like that. That's where I could see having that higher resolution, but otherwise...
Yeah, I didn't catch the caveat earlier of 1080p because the 980 is a 4K card.
Yeah.
So I don't know anybody who's even running a 980 at 1080p. Like, I've never seen a benchmark for a 980 at 1080p.
Yeah, no, the thing is that with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, your 970 has difficulty at 1080p running Ultra. That, to me, is...
Yeah, but their mark was 30 frames. But, like I said, I cut a couple things down. I didn't have a problem with it. It was mostly like, okay, I lowered some of the shadows and I turned off GameWorks.
Yeah, but I'm saying, 980 should be the absolute maximum. And looks like Joe has lost his mind. He's temporarily gone raised. Stop reading Reddits. Okay.
I'm not reading Reddit. I'm actually messing with my settings on YouTube.
No, I'm the one reading Reddit right now, okay?
Okay.
I'm actually trying to
Are you guys still reading over the corporate chivalry of McDonald's?
I am. That is exactly what I'm reading.
I read that all earlier today.
Hey guys, I'm going to get like 3 or 4 Big Macs and a Diet Coke. Because that totally makes sense.
And you're going to die from it.
Is that why your camera's off so we can't see you stuff your face?
Well, if you were watching the stream, you could. It's just that
right.
I haven't yet figured out how to get both to work properly.
OBS and Skype don't like it.
The only time I ever, eat Big Macs is whenever I use them to garnish my pig turducken wrapped in bacon.
If I've had teeth pulled, they're great for that because I don't have to chew McDonald's.
How about let's just agree not to eat McDonald's food because I'm not sure that it's actual food.
I haven't eaten there in 2 years, so
yeah, I try to avoid it.
I don't eat there because it doesn't agree with me because it's pretty much just
it's disgusting.
I'm not really sure what it is.
Horrible.
I'm not sure.
It's the mystery meat that you used to get in elementary school. They tell you it was turkey, but it doesn't quite taste like turkey.
Yes, and in case anybody was wondering, the Pixel Crashers podcast is about games or McDonald's interchangeably. Same thing, right?
I would file McDonald's for us shitting on corporations, okay?
I like shitting on corporations. Yeah. So shitting on corporations, let's start shitting on Ubisoft because the Division, or not the Division, but Siege is out in 3 days, and them damn servers still don't work.
It's okay.
Once it's fully released, if it doesn't work once it's released, then the complaint, I could definitely get down with that. Because,
You know what?
yeah.
Siege gives us weaponized Roombas. I'm fine with it.
You know what? Even if the beta's broken, let's remember Battlefield 4's beta was technically more stable than their actual official release.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, we're not going to do the whole follow my face. That's actually starting to get really annoying.
A little bit.
The follow my face nonsense. It's actually just starting to get annoying now.
What are you even talking about?
We're gonna turn that off, and I'm gonna find a way to just scoot up really close to my camera, so that way. Yeah. No. But in any case, so Joe, what have you been playing this week? Oh wait, Fallout 4. Never mind.
Fallout season.
I mean, I've been modding Fallout 4. Like every time a good mod shows up, I use that. It's a very different game when you actually balance all the weapon damage values. Mm-hmm. Make it so survival mode does double damage for you and enemies instead of you doing half damage. Because suddenly everything dies from like 3 bullets. So you have to actually sit and be very careful about where you go. Unless you're in power armor, and then you can just run up and punch stuff.
Or stealth.
That's what I did.
Stealth is, as I heard it was quoted, is
Again,
developer-sanctioned God mode.
You can download mods that make stealth more difficult. There you go.
Yeah.
You know, or they could have just not made it
wrong
OP.
with that game.
Or they could have just not made it OP.
That's every Bethesda game, though. Every Bethesda game has an easy way to break the game, and usually has bad balance, and then modders just fix everything.
Well,
like,
isn't that the whole issue with Bethesda, though?
We've
just let the modders
we've had this discussion before.
They release good frameworks.
Well, we talk about Bethesda games every week. It's kind of a trend now.
Well, no, it's not so much that. It's the fact that the reason behind their supposed crappy quality is because they are actually one of the few AAA developers that actually has a reasonable budget that they stick behind. Unlike, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I don't even know what their budget was.
I will take that to a point, but when it comes to stuff like balance issues, it's like they've been making games for decades. It's like you don't need a big budget to balance your game correctly.
Yeah, but
there's no excuse for that.
All right. Let's be honest, Major. How many games are actually good at balance? Good balance is very rare.
Bethesda's really bad. New Vegas is far better balanced than
There we go.
In all honesty,
New Vegas too. I balance New Vegas myself.
I love Zyphon just sitting there I don't care.
People who play Bethesda games on PC have at this point accepted that Bethesda makes good frameworks for mods. Basically. That is what it is.
Yeah, it's a mod launcher.
They should have doubled down on that rather than spending more money on just casually
and I will say
but
how difficult would it have been for them to implement a hardcore mode? That was such a good feature in New Vegas where you had to actually take into account eating.
There's a mod for it.
There will be, just like for Skyrim.
There already is.
Skyrim would have been.
There already is a mod.
Oh, is there? I didn't even check. Yeah, Skyrim. Why didn't Skyrim have a survival mode? The Hunterborn mod you can get where you can actually hunt game.
Well,
and
it was. It wasn't
source.
just Hunterborn. It was the combination of
Winterborn
or Frostfall, Hunterborn.
It's some of the stuff isn't just in the game. Why didn't they implement a way for that? You'd actually, and it could be an optional mode. You don't have to make it mandatory. Hardcore mode. It's something that could work really well, and people have responded well to it. And yet Bethesda's nope.
I'm very supportive, by the way, of games where you eat, or eating while playing games, or eating while doing a podcast, whatever.
Or it's nothing to do with you eating right now, of course. No.
Food is great. I'm still gonna eat.
But anyway, so Travis, have you been playing anything other than these fanboys? What they've been playing?
I've been playing Euro Truck Simulator.
That game is awesome.
I know.
This is one of the few things that are wrong on its potato.
It's just the title.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really had all that much time, so I just hopped on there and drove some trucks around Europe.
I've done that in real life. Well, specifically Germany, but still, it was driving trucks in Europe.
What's the appeal of playing a game like that? I've always just seen them as super casual. so I don't actually bother with them. Like I got it in a humble bundle, one of them, but I haven't touched it.
I mean, just be. I mean, they're a fun way to waste a little bit of time if you're interested in that kind of thing. I mean, it's got a subculture, just like train games or farming simulator.
I say the same thing about those games, actually.
Yeah, same here.
I mean,
I don't see the appeal.
Like if I could go out,
if
of course you don't,
they're
'cause you're not part of the subculture, right?
if
I'm
they're
not.
extremely accurate, I
The
can
only
get down
reason-
behind him.
The only reason I actually have Euro Truck Simulator is because I got it in a humble bundle, and I didn't know what to play. I had, not too long before I had to go out again because my week has been busy with Thanksgiving. Happy belated Thanksgiving to everyone, by the way.
Yes, there were a
Turkey
few
time.
days off, but yes.
there's also that his computer can't support better games.
See, I wasn't going to go there.
Ouch.
Here we go, bringing up the potatoes.
So I'm okay
Hurts.
to make fun of you.
It's right here. But yes, that has been my week has been Euro Truck Simulator and Turkey.
A laptop with
Turkey is great.
16 CUDA cores.
16 CUDA cores.
Yes.
It's record breaking, man. Can you imagine that?
Minimum
16
game
whole?
anywhere in existence says 64.
So, how about you, Zyphon? You've been
I've
playing
actually taken a break from my warframing a little bit because I
No
got
grind frame.
games excessively cheap. Older games, of course, but they're new to me, like The Witcher 1 and 2. I've been playing The Witcher quite a bit recently, and I was about to start on Crysis earlier today and got sidetracked from that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about being sidetracked.
Look, buddies. Buddies.
He's taking a bath right now. He
That's what
just
he wants
woke
you to
up
think.
from his mid-morning, night, afternoon, every other hour nap.
Still not as entertaining as chinchilla baths, which are dust.
So the real question is what takes more naps, a bunny or a cat? A fat cat.
Me.
A cat, probably.
Sean, Zyphon does. But
I like Zyphon. I like Zyphon's answer.
Yeah,
You know,
Zyphon, by the way, you would appreciate this bunny. He actually looks like a chinchilla. He's like kind of gray with black striping, like a chinchilla. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry to cut in, but I just remembered the other game that I was playing. I don't know if you guys would consider it a game. It's a simulator, another simulator called FPV Freerider, which is basically like the RC multicopters that they have. It's a simulator for those.
Like a drone simulator?
Yeah,
So
basically.
the video game simulator of a real life activity that's a lot like a video game.
Yes.
I'm just waiting for the day they actually come out with Peasant Simulator.
Well, it's for practice because they cost so much
Yeah,
money.
Peasant Simulator, aka everything that Kev plays. It's pretty much his
Is she really
MO.
going out and getting a $200 quadcopter?
$200. That's super cheap, man.
I'm out of date
Good,
on
then go
this.
get that R9 390. Or
Bills
just the
can easily
380. Those
reach
are
$800. I
Yeah.
guess.
I'm used
Well,
to military
speaking of-
pricing on things.
Speaking of cheap stuff, and something that Joe, I'm sure, will have a lot to talk about here, let's go ahead and move on to our first story of the day. So AMD, of which Joe is a huge fanboy, formally announced details on their next lineup of CPUs based on the new Zen architecture that I've been misspelling wrong a lot and then found out it was spelled with a Z, not an X. Do you guys think this will actually give AMD a little bit more realistic competitive position in the CPU market, or is it still going to be them constantly playing catch up with Intel? Then we'll go and start with you, Joe. Sorry, waited for Kev to talk and then I had to interrupt him.
Well,
You bastard!
I'm already of the opinion that AMD processors, I mean, yes, they're not as good as Intel usually, but they're cheaper. And they still get the job done for the average person who's just playing games and not like video editing and trying to, do all these other features with their PC. Like they're just playing games. The AMD processor, I think, is all right. I'm not going to claim it's amazing, but I think it's all right.
Yeah.
Hashtag get Joe on Twitch. Am I the only person here I'm not really going to say too much about these AMD processors until we see DX12? Because DX12 is supposed to really take advantage of them.
Here's the thing: is that that's not necessarily going to be a competitive advantage against Intel, because the thing is I see there being a lot of Intel. The problem that is with Intel and AMD's past experience with them is the fact that they have this issue with even though they'll have an 8-core processor, it will perform as well as an i5 that's a quad core.
Well, actually, there was a recent look into the way that Bulldozer architecture is for their AMD FX chips and their A series APUs. That 8-core processor is not really 8 cores physically; it's 4 cores.
So what do they do? Like a full-time?
It's more or less. It's without infringing on Intel's patents licensing. It's an effective hyper-threading.
Well, it's an SMT, right? This what is it called? Streaming multi-threading or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Simultaneous multi-threading.
Yeah, but they're listing them as physical cores because any given software is going to recognize that as physical cores. But it's effectively hyper-threading a quad-core processor.
So it's a scam.
Yep.
As most things in life
since 2013, when they came out with Bulldozer.
Congratulations, AMD, on failing miserably.
Yeah.
No, their SMT technology actually does a bit better than Intel's hyper-threading, though, because
yes, it does. It was able to be realized as more of an actual independent core than just a partial threading effect.
Exactly. And that's where a lot of people are seeing like the I don't know what it was. Was it like an 8-core or 10-core or whatever processor that was part of the Zen lineup? And I'm betting that's actually like a 6-core that's just hyper-threaded, or they found a way to do even more SMTs out of a single core. Like if they manage to get 3 virtual cores per physical core. Wow, we've got a 12-core processor. No, it's not. It's still a quad core.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know any of their AMD A series, the A series APUs are just dual cores with the SMT, as you said. When it looks like, there's quad cores and single cores and dual cores, it's like, nope, they're all based off of 2.
Speaking of the AMD APUs, apparently they're releasing the ones that are on the consoles next year or in 2017.
Well, they're
on the market.
Close. They're close. That the Zen is about as close as the computer world will get to what's in the consoles, which it's actually going to probably be better than what's in the consoles.
Ouch!
And the Zen they've been actually working on for more than a year now. I think it's
more than a couple of years. I thought.
Since they actually started moving forward with it, they've had it in the works for a long time, but they rehired a CEO, or they hired from another company, a CEO that's noted for turning companies around that are in a slightly downhill spin. Big, but he's very intelligent in the tech world. He's not just runs companies. He actually knows what he's doing as far as the engineering side of things. Can't remember the guy's name now. But he's been spearheading this Zen project, and he's the one that got it rolling a lot faster than where it was going for them beforehand.
Yeah, and that's I think I know you're talking about. He was the guy who originally started the Zen project. I can't remember his name.
He worked for AMD in the past.
Well, yeah, he worked for. Well, no, the guy who started the Zen project in general actually works for Apple now. He essentially, like as I heard a reference on the internet, he's essentially in the tech world. He's a gun for hire, for lack of a better term. He essentially just goes from company to company, does a big project for him, and then moves on. He rarely stays there for more than a year or two, and then he's on to his next project. Which I can kind of understand that sentiment, because what are you going to do? Sit around and troubleshoot problems with your technology? Who wants to do that?
It depends on what he's out for. Is he out for money, or is he out for the challenge? Which, more than likely in a tech world, he's likely out for the challenge. If he's out for money, he can get 2 competing companies into a bidding war for a job if he's that good. More than likely, he wants the challenge. He wants a good project that he's going to find entertaining. That's why he moves on from one point to another. And because of that kind of mindset, if that is what he's like, it would make him less biased. He's not going to be favoring one competition over another. He's going to be looking at the work he's doing itself and not caring a whole lot about anything else.
Yep, pretty much. But the other thing on there that a lot of people noted about like Intel's works, though, back on the kind of AMD subject, was that, you know, the amount of like one of the things that, again, AMD's still not going for is they're not including any kind of layer 3 cache on any of their processors. Which is kind of strange because, well, Intel's been doing layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3 for some time now. And I'm wondering if that's going to give them less effectiveness because, well, let's be honest, like layer 3 cache effectively gives more faster
the way their
access.
physical architecture is, the layer 1 cache has the same effectiveness as layer 1 and layer 2 for Intel. So even though there's no official layer 3 labeled, AMD's layer 2 is still an Intel layer 3. Intel has a little bit, and this is the reason why Intel's processors are so power efficient, because it's so easy to cut off parts of the chip that are not in use. And that's why there's so much segregation throughout an Intel wafer and die, so that it can instantly drop power in something not in use. And you look at the power ratings on Intel versus AMD, it's like a 2-to-1 difference. AMD is not quite as power efficient as a result of that, but the effective structure, physical structure of the chips is not very dissimilar.
By the way, you know, as I noticed here, there's actually 5 people on this podcast tonight. As I'm noticing, there's not just 2. And I'd rather not have just Zyphon and I sitting there talking about
Attack.
Well, you start getting into actual technical details of things like that. I can definitely. I'm a lot better with that.
Yeah, no,
You're the better with the tech than the 3 of us.
I mean, I don't really have all that much to offer on this, right? So,
like, I'm the next closest one, and
Well, if you look at more
baby.
jobs are actually involved in that sort of thing. He works in tech support. I do PC repair services. So, you know, we deal with that sort of thing in our jobs.
yeah, well,
I'm like 6 months out. I'm in school for network administration. I'm still like,
You'll
okay.
catch up with it.
I catch on to
interesting
stuff.
things. You'll start looking up a lot of information on your own. You'll
Right.
catch up quick.
Exactly, but that's like I said, I'm just not where you guys are, but I'm a little closer than where Joe and Deathshot
I
are.
was just waiting for Joe to throw in more AMD fanboyism, and I haven't heard it.
I've said it.
I think
out.
he's
It's
just-
Like, I bought
he's-
my.
Well, I don't think
Processor.
Joe is an AMD fanboy though.
Okay,
It was
hold
like-
on.
I had my AMD processor. It's like $100, and then here's the Intel processor. It's $150 to $200. And when I bought my processor was like 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and 3 years, and it was okay. I'll just buy the $100 processor. Like,
And it still works good.
yeah, and it does everything I need it to. The only games that have issues are ones that are weirdly CPU intensive. Like,
there's a balance, right, between price for what you need,
Yeah,
you know, and what what it offers for efficiency. Sometimes you can you can give up a little bit of price efficiency if you don't need, you know, as much as
for the average person who's not doing a lot of stuff, like a lot of like video editing and a lot of CPU intensive stuff, an AMD processor isn't going to hurt them. Like, they're still probably going to be able to play their games just the same, and they're not going to notice the difference. Like, the average person isn't going to really get a noticeable difference from running a high end.
As I had mentioned before, you know, and the thing is like, as far as the price for performance, you start getting into the $200 range of Intel, like an i5, you can save as much as a $50 difference on going the AMD route for equivalent performance. But what you're trading off on price for performance benefit in AMD is power usage, which some people on their gaming rig, they don't care. You know, especially if you're going AMD graphics too, that's even more power hungry. You know, maybe they just run games for an hour a day, which for some of us is on the light side. But they run games for an hour a day and shut their system off, so it's not really that power hungry. My system runs a lot more consistently on a regular basis because it's not just a gaming rig. It's do absolutely everything I can possibly do. That's why I opted for a Xeon processor in there.
Yep.
But, you know, Intel is definitely going to save you a few dollars, you know, tens of dollars at your year-end electric bill on that over an AMD.
it does depend on how much you pay for electric as well. Apparently, Katz wants us to get off of talking tech and get on to talking gameplay. So let's talk gameplay. How many frames is this going to give us?
Games with
14
Well,
and a half.
I
The
have
PS4
one
version.
question. I have one question for you guys. In terms of like power usage, when it comes to a build and the power unit you need to purchase, between AMD and Nvidia, will that make a difference in terms of price of your power unit?
Okay.
AMD usually uses more power
Well-
than NVIDIA.
But he was talking about the power supply, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to need a bigger power
Actually,
supply.
it could. Sometimes the difference of 100 watts, depending on what brand you go, is going to maybe be $10 difference. So that's not going to be terribly huge in some cases. In some cases, if you're looking for a better rated power supply or better branded power supply, the difference of 100 watts, which could be the difference between going an AMD, all AMD system versus Intel NVIDIA, you may end up having to pay like $50 more for a better power supply to handle the extra load.
I would like to just jump in here and note, by the way, that's assuming you're going with essentially the older R9 AMD graphics cards. The Furies are much more power efficient. They
are much more power efficient, but if you compare them to equivalent...
Well, yeah, the Fury, but what about the rest of the 300 series?
The rest of the R9 series are horrible. Like what was it? The 295X that actually used more power than it was even rated for, and it was like
right. Yeah, you're talking about the 200s. I was asking about the 300s.
The dual
they're all R9
chip one.
Yeah, the 295X.
150 watts for the GPU alone.
Yeah, it was insane. But no, the 390X or the 390. Those ones, if you compare them to like a 970 or a 980, which is kind of where I see them paired with respectively, they're going to use more power. Because especially the Maxwell cards are really power efficient. So
everybody's going to get more powerful or more performance and a more energy efficiency as time goes on. But as I've noticed, AMD is like a half a step to two full steps in some cases behind Intel or NVIDIA in that case in the energy efficiency department.
Yeah, performance wise, not as
newest AMD, yes, is more energy efficient than their previous generation, but it's still not as good as NVIDIA's current.
Yeah.
Right.
But let's go ahead and jump off of that one so we don't bore Cats to death here. And Joe, Joe, I think, is stringing up a noose over there.
Like I said, Joe and kind of Travis too. They're not as much into the tech.
Yeah.
Hell, I'm just not as good at it as the two of you are. So
I know what I need to know.
Well, I think Travis is more along the lines of he wants to know more about this stuff because, well, he's at some point going to be getting a new computer.
I've just delayed my delving into it because of other life responsibilities.
Like you don't have to learn anything. You're friends with a bunch of tech guys. You just ask them everything.
Well, that's something that I'm really interested in.
Don't do that. Learn yourself because I could be fanboying it. How do you know? Zyphon and I could be both AMD Intel, NVIDIA Intel fanboys.
Logitech shells.
You guys are totally.
Well, I mean, even beyond that, like the three, like when the three, me, Morty, and Zyphon have conversations on this, a lot of the time we'll disagree on something.
Yeah, especially with Kev thinking that running at high at 30 frames per second for Assassin's Creed Syndicate is acceptable for.
I didn't say running at high.
That's what's great about on PC is like you can have different priorities. Like some people are going to care more about having a more stable game experience, and then some people are just going to want.
And then other people play with AMD. I'm sorry.
300 series is now bench. In fairness, the 300 series is now benchmarking the 900 series.
Yeah, no. Like honestly, like as far as graphics cards go, like if I got a new one now, I would probably go with a 390 or a 390X, depending on the price of it. Honestly, because I'm not that impressed with the 9 series of graphics cards.
I love my 970.
Maxwell is very power efficient, but I'm just kind of up in the air on a lot of their. Like, for example, DirectX 12.
Next year, Pascal will be using a better version of high bandwidth memory, on-die high bandwidth memory that the Fury series have.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, I heard there was a fix that NVIDIA apparently did for DX12 also. Like, I'm still waiting to see more DX12 games.
Yeah.
But right now, I've had my 970 for almost a year, and I'm very excited.
That last month.
What happened?
Developers got DX12 just last month, didn't they, or was it the month before?
It was a few months back, actually.
Oh, okay, I'm off track on that.
But let's go ahead and get moving on here. Our second story is kind of a culmination of several stories, but there was recently a New Statesman article. It was kind of an op-ed piece, and it was essentially kind of the culmination of several articles I've seen pretty much almost every other week about the philosophical and scientific boons of gaming. And my question to pose to you guys, kind of to wax philosophical a little bit here, is, are these just kind of op-ed opinions attempting to justify an escapist mentality? Or is there more to games than actually a lot of people assume on the surface? And we'll go ahead and start with Travis on this one.
Well, I think my argument, my views on the subject might be a little bit more suited to the end of the conversation, but I'm not entirely sure if how do I phrase this? Yes, I think that games are more than just an avenue for escapism, but at there's a lot of different uses for games, in terms of learning, in terms of art, human experience. I could go on and on and on about it.
I mean, the studies have been shown that people who tend to play games tend to be more empathetic, even.
Right, yeah.
Again, they haven't.
They
done,
also try to sleep with everything that moves because they think that they're Commander Shepard. Wait, what? Did I say that out loud?
Hey, I'm sorry, but
I've played enough Power games to know where this is going.
The original series.
If playing Mass Effect gives you more confidence in social situations, I'm all for it.
I thought all I have to do is go do something and then show up and be like, "Hey, next flag, give me some more of your personal background." And then it's like, I'll decide if I'm romancing you here. We'll keep going. Otherwise, I'll leave you alone while I go talk to everyone else.
Well, I mean,
sorry. The one thing that bugged me about Mass Effect is I would just go to have a conversation, just a conversation, and then they'd be like, "Sorry, you're gonna have to break it off with so and so because we can't be together." I'll be like, "I didn't even. What the heck? Stop."
Well, it's funny because there's been a lot of studies in dating in that asking the other person things about themselves, like people like talking about themselves, and that's advice.
People are naturally narcissistic.
Yes, people like talking about themselves. So
no, that's Kev. Kev talks about himself a lot.
Treat a conversation like it's Mass Effect and just ask people random things about themselves.
By the way, how many close loved ones have you had pass? Were any super tragic occurrences?
Did any of them, by chance, I don't know, get indoctrinated by Reapers?
Have you sworn any commitments to revenge in the past few years?
All of it.
But I think I guess I can just get to the other part of my my argument. I guess here is that even if games are used as escapism, and they are, I personally can attest to using games as escapism many times in my life to get through a rather rocky public education. Is escapism really bad? I feel like escapism is a fundamental part of the human condition, and humans, lean towards escapism in many different ways, and a lot of avenues of escapism are much more damaging than video games.
That's a funny thing to think about here. I got an interesting thing to point out to you. You notice how there's a lot of people that get different kind of personality disorders and things like that. Most people don't think about that with animals too much, because other than pets, you may or may not see things like that. But you look at animals in the wild, you do not see any kind of personality disorders, any kind of it. But you look at a animal that is not in the wild, like say you look at horses that are kept in a stall long periods of time, they develop a lot of human-like personality disorders. So that says something about the way our life is. Because you look at some people that do nothing but work hard on the farm all day, or they survive by means of hunting. They don't do it for fun. They hunt for their own food. Those people don't commonly have a lot of those kind of issues. when you really look at it, because they're living like animals. So it's actually being at the higher state of, intellectual thinking that humans are that actually causes some of these problems, and we actually need an escape to occupy our minds when we are forced to do more mundane things in our current society.
That's a very good point. There's
a tendency for more intellectual people tend to be the loneliest. I've heard stated. It's like,
there's that. The people choose to stray away from intelligent people. I agree with that.
Ignorance,
but I think it's the new escape. Like they said, remember way back when it was books for hundreds of years. Then it became movies and
I still read books.
And now games kind of just but I'm talking about everybody read books. It wasn't now most people play video games. It's just one of those kinds of things. No, it's better than escaping with alcohol and drugs.
And that's exactly. My mic was muted, but that's exactly what I was saying, Kev.
Well, now here's my thing, though: is I'm gonna have to fundamentally disagree in my opinion of beating my microphone up. Apparently,
all right,
is that it's not just because the thing is there's always been forms of entertainment. There's been music, there's been plays, books, movies, etc. There's always been forms of entertainment of some kind. The difference is in video games, and where the real science comes into it is when I watch a movie, I enjoy the entertainment, I admire the artwork of it, the cinematography, whatever. I even might, in my own mind, imagine myself in the place of the protagonist or maybe the antagonist or any other characters therein. Or just imagine myself being...
I always side with the antagonist.
Sometimes. It depends on the movie. But I mean, or I just imagine myself in their scenario, detached from the situation. Maybe I just like the region that they're in, or something like that. Who knows? But the point is that in my own mind, I'm trying to, essentially put myself in that position. But ultimately, I'm along for the ride. I'm just sitting there like I'm in a car with no driver. I'm just watching the trees go by on the side of the road. I don't actually interact with anything. I can put myself in the situation of that protagonist or antagonist or whatever. But ultimately, a lot of times I'll get frustrated at protagonists in movies because they make some stupid decision, which in my conscious mind I realize is because it's how the story has to play out. They have to do this silly decision or whatever in order to grow as a character, blah, blah, blah.
That's my grand plan before killing you.
Yeah, but, ultimately, though, I still get frustrated at that in the back of my mind. I get annoyed by the fact of, you have the super smart protagonist, let's say, that makes some monumentally and confusingly stupid decision at one point in the movie so he can learn and grow from it, and I'll get annoyed with it. Well, in games...
Games are kind of the same way, though.
Sometimes.
Like me talk about Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Jacob Fry does a lot of stupid things, and because it's linear, you kind of just have to go with it.
Yeah. Now, there is a choice in a lot of games, not necessarily the choice of BioWare's arbitrary choices that matter nonsense, but more along the lines of whenever I am sometimes I don't know if you guys ever played what was it, Black Ops or not Black Ops, The Line, what was that called?
Spec Ops Line.
Spec Ops The Line. You go along through that whole game, no spoilers, but you're not along for the ride. You're making choices that you think are right.
Is that they make you believe you're along for the ride in that game. And they let you believe in the whole. I'm making decisions. I'm going along.
Just don't spoil it.
I won't.
Yeah, because Joe's.
It's been out for a few years, but all right, I won't spoil it completely.
Yeah, but that's an example of a game that you're not along for the ride. It twists you just the same as the main characters being twisted. And
yeah.
That's kind of.
Well, by the end, they basically call into action. They call in all the actions you've made and been you had a choice, even if you didn't think you did. It's basically saying you thought you were just along for the ride. You thought you'd shift blame and not feel anything for what you're doing. But then at the end, they're
they throw it back in your face.
You're gonna like you made decisions here. Like
Yeah.
you may not have thought so, but you made decisions.
But yeah,
Right.
but my point is that you have
season 1 of The Walking Dead was like that too. Like when you finally get to episode 5 and you hit that climax, and they throw it all back in your face.
Yeah.
But-
What I liked about Spec Ops Line was none of it was through narrative though. There was no like, you're talking to another character and you have like a list of choices. It's like Spec Ops had you make decisions through gameplay when you didn't think you did. Like,
Right.
without a spoiler, I remember there's one scene where it was like you go up and it's several men being hung, and you have a decision. It's like, oh, you can, what was it? I think it was like you can shoot.
You could shoot them or you could walk away.
Yeah, you can shoot them or you can walk away. But another choice was something like you can shoot into the air at nothing and scare the crowd away, and then go up and help
And
them.
let
And there was
them
like
down.
these things that you didn't think of, and it was like these are totally choices you can make. But if you aren't thinking about it, you won't make these choices. You'll go like a blind, machine.
Well,
Just
you know,
I remember that I actually shot the guys because I didn't want them to suffer no more.
yeah, you've got that interesting Call of Duty level in Modern Warfare 2, the no Russian thing, which is just
Oh,
like
yeah.
out of left field, and yeah, it seems kind of shallow, but like the more and more I've thought about that level, and just it could have been done better, but at the time it was made, I think that it's still pretty profound for something so simple.
It's one of the most controversial scenes in a video game still to this day. You're talking about the airport level, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Still,
And what
still
we're talking about,
but
What?
Well, I've gone. I've seen some discussions, about the different avenues people took. There's people that just went with it and just like shot everybody. It's a video game. There's been people that, didn't shoot anything at all. Then there's been people that shot over the heads of people and like actually got into the level in this linear railroaded shooter, and they made these active choices with almost no prompts from the game itself.
yep.
I would
I
have
mean,
felt a lot.
while we're talking about choices that matter, what about multiplayer games where that's all choice? Like you have to make the right decisions or you lose.
Well, now,
Well, the choices in that level didn't matter at all, right?
it's
that's the thing.
not so much
Well,
about choice.
I
The
actually
actual
wrote two different ways. First, going down the entire crowd, thinking that I had to, and then I went through it again, not shooting a single person in there. Ended the same way both times.
Yeah, so there's not really a choice in there, but like it's not so much about the choices though. What I'm meaning is the difference between a movie and a video game is that there's ways that have been shown that a movie cannot or possibly engage the same way as a video game because of the fact of you are taking the protagonist and you are focused in on this protagonist and you're taking him along for the ride.
Well,
you tend to focus more on his actions and not always notice around you, which is where Spec Ops: The Line really came in.
I would like to look at like the other side of the spectrum and compare traditional tabletop games to modern video games in terms of like in traditional tabletop games, like it's very heavily relied upon as your imagination, and you build the world along with your GM and the other players, and that's just solely your imagination for the most part. And then you compare it to video games where you also place yourself into the story, but there's visual stimulus that's pre-created by somebody at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is that like essentially where a lot of I saw some scientific articles. Like I've been reading these pretty much every week. I'm kind of holding off on them. I don't know why, but because I felt like I didn't want to do too many of these. But something I noticed is like one of them was like people who have PTSD or other traumatic flashback type psychological disorders. Where they did a study on people that have frequent flashbacks and frequent thoughts occurring of a traumatic experience of some sort. Playing Tetris, they found that when they were engaging in some sort of audiovisual mental stimulus, such as playing Tetris, where you have to actively engage your mind because you have to think about what pieces go where, blah blah blah. You're seeing something, so that's kind of taking up your visual cortex, and then you're also hearing the music played, and et cetera, et cetera. They found that it dumbed down the effects of PTSD significantly. Then there was a separate study that I can't remember if it was Skyrim or if it was another snowy type game of some kind, that burn victims experienced 30 to 50% less pain when playing that game because, well, psychosomatic.
One thing I can see, which I'm just guessing off of here, but it seems like games could also help anyone who's experienced any type of trauma in ways in that, like, when you're playing a game, even if it doesn't feel like it, like, even if you're only playing just like a straight up linear game, it's like you're always making decisions in a game. Mm-hmm. You feel in control when you're playing in games. And I feel like that's something, and it helps decision making, and it helps a lot of the cognitive processes that go towards, you know, making up decisions and thinking on your feet. And I feel like that could help some people because it's, you know, gives them a sense of control.
I'd really like to see more. I'm sure there's studies on it, but I like to see very comprehensive studies on the effects of like gaming on depression and such, because I feel like
I haven't seen too many articles, but I've read plenty of, you know, things written by people who have suffered from depression who have said flat out that playing games has helped them immensely.
Right, like think about the social experience. Like I tried to bring this up earlier with multiplayer games.
Yeah,
like it helps a lot of people with social anxiety.
Yeah. It definitely does,
because when you get into the action of things, especially in something that's a more active, like a first-person shooter, you get into action, you're not thinking about talking, you're not focusing on too much. That's the biggest issue with somebody with a stutter, is they get stuck thinking about what they're saying. If they, what they're actively saying, the word that they're trying to use. Like, say, somebody with a stutter stutters over their first name, introducing themselves. A common trick is for them to think about their middle name while saying their first. So if they're not actively thinking about what they're trying to say at that point in time, then that can alleviate social or communicative issues like stuttering or anxiety. Mm-hmm. And of course, the game is going to provide that distraction.
Yeah,
right.
And I also see it as well as that now you see this used for good or evil, so to speak, arbitrary words, but you know, where essentially the anonymity of gaming does reduce a lot of the social awkwardness. You know, people don't have to see me, people don't have to worry about how I look, etc., etc. It's kind of it's a place where you have no face. You can go to disappear, and a lot of people want that, which that may be another telling thing in the psychology of society today. That's becoming more popular.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about us. We've been gaming together for, what, 4 years? Mm-hmm. And we've only recently... This is the first time I've seen Zyphon's face. I didn't see Death Shroud's face until we started doing the podcast. I don't think Morty's either. Until we started doing the podcast.
Yeah. Well, no, you've seen my face up because my face has been around, but... like I've had like avatars posted up of my face and so on in various places. But the thing is that, yeah, that anonymity, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to get to actually doing the podcast on cameras, is because I feel like there's a certain degree of expression that you also miss whenever you're just over voice. Like when you're playing games online with just you and other people, there's a certain degree of like their expressions and their body language that you don't see. And there's been a lot of people that I've noticed they tend to have their verbal communication is lacking, for a lack of a better term. I have no doubt that actually well, no, I'm not even talking like,
I know.
Yeah, I'm talking about people that have legitimate
like they have trouble talking to people, or people who have like speech issues,
or people that have that off-color humor that without seeing them grinning or, you know, whatever the things you'd normally see when you're talking to a person, it's like their joke just kind of is like, okay, that was just kind of rude, but because you don't realize it's
had social anxiety before, though. I can say one thing that can help you obviously there's a barrier to overcome. You have to get into the social situation. Multiplayer video games can be a way to get yourself forced into it, so to speak. I mean, you can keep quiet, you can mute other people, you can just shut it down. My route into that was not video games. I use video games to help it along over the years because that's not ever something that it's fixed and you're better for the rest of your life. You always got to constantly work on it. My big kickstart was joining the military, where I was forced to work with other people and communicate with them. But playing multiplayer video games has helped keep that going throughout the years instead of like, all right, I'm done. Now I can go back to being a recluse.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have trouble with people I don't know very well.
Yeah.
So I get totally where you're going. And like you said, you just have to throw yourself out there. Like I can be the guy that be in a room of 100 people and be completely alone because I'm like, should I talk to that guy?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
the thing.
I mean, personally, the way that I worked through mine was that got me kickstarted on having to, try to work. Is that I realized that my goals in life and where I eventually want to be is going to require me to be better in social situations, and I had to force myself into it. Otherwise, I would not be able to accomplish what I wanted in life, despite not being exposed for it.
Well, and here's the kind of another one of the studies that was kind of done into this that we'll kind of end with because, good gosh, that was a good conversation we had on here. But something that, like another study that was done that kind of relays back into this of like kind of forcing yourself into social things. There was this woman that had, I believe, a traumatic brain injury, and that kind of this article centered around as being a central point. But it's essentially that she, to try to help her get back into it, she more or less created a real life game. More or less brush your teeth, earn 5 points or 5 XP, blah, blah, blah. And essentially you have like achievements and boss enemies to fight, your boss enemies being a bad self-image or whatever, essentially framing your life, your goals, your achievements, your problems in the form of a video game. And that was something that actually helped her, and she kind of started spreading around and, well, essentially monetized it. But yeah, it was like that was actually something that really really kind of hit a chord for me. It was like, a lot of people I think could achieve a lot more if they essentially started framing their risk-reward system as a video game.
I can go on and on about how
maybe that's why some people get into Sims so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go on and on about how gaming systems could improve our current education system.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they already have them. Like my son, he's in 5th grade.
Yeah, they're just
and he has all these different kind of math games. He's always asking to play them on our computers, and they're essentially just video games. He doesn't realize he's doing math work. He just wants to play the video game.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of kids who are awful at math, but the second they are able to frame it correctly, it's like they'll voluntarily be doing their math homework.
Yep.
Because it's in the framework of a game.
Yep, yeah. He is in denial and has been in denial for 1.5 years that he's doing math homework.
There's the thought that, when you look at our current grading system, it's like when the very thought that you start at 100% and then just continuously drop unless you do perfectly is so broken when you think about it. It's like, wouldn't it be better to start at 0? And then even if you do an assignment and not get full points on it, you're constantly seeing your stuff increase. Rather than seeing decreasing all the time.
And it kind of makes you feel like you've earned something rather than you maintain something.
Yep. It's
true.
That's a very failed psychology in there. But that was the longest topic I think we've discussed for a while.
That was the most relevant one.
Oh, I'm sure we could go on and on for a long time about this.
It's a very deep topic that has a lot of layers, and we'll probably have to come back to it several times.
We could probably dedicate an entire.
Yeah,
we'll just leave it off. There's so many benefits to gaming that can be used for so many different applications.
Yeah, it's definitely not just an escape, and I guess that was kind of where we were going with that.
Yeah, I know I don't play it for an escape. I play it just because I like making decisions. I like playing games.
I think we all do. Like we talked about me. I like stories. To me, it's like an interactive movie, basically.
Yep.
And nothing is ever going to take away from that, I don't think.
Yep. But in any case, let's go ahead and get moving on to our last story, which is kind of going to roll into our evergreen topic here. This was actually a carryover story from last week. There was a Reddit user that essentially created a Steam controller profile to help a disabled man play Skyrim with his son. This disabled man only had use of one hand, and that was essentially the Steam controller mapped to be maximized in use for one-handed use. And my question posed to you guys to start here before we move into the evergreen topic is, will that new controller style, that new innovation there, and the subsequent freely configurable design, which started with the kind of concept of Valve thing, but now you can do it with pretty much all the controllers, I'm pretty certain. Will that change the way that people use controllers on console or PC? And we'll go ahead and start with Zyphon on this one. We're going to move circles.
I see a lot of potential behind the Steam controller. I have not tried any kind of one-handed operations on that yet. That when I read about that, when I found that very interesting, I immediately saw that's definitely possible with the way their software is set up. There's so much ways to customize it. It's incredible. I'm more than a 2-decade console gamer. 2 years ago, when the Xbox One came out, and I was looking at Xbox One or PS4, wait a minute, I'm going to build a gaming PC. And I have not looked back. I've still not gotten an Xbox One or PS4, but I cannot put this down. I'm not so good with gaming with a mouse and keyboard. The best I can do with the mouse is point-and-click RPGs like Dragon Age Origins, where you can do everything just with right and left click.
I was like that. I had to make myself use keyboard.
Yeah, you kind of have to do that. I just threw myself into Battlefield 4 and sucked for a while. Still kind of suck on the PC version.
Shaky hands, so when I'm trying to aim a firearm, especially first-person shooters, are the hardest one for me to deal with, and not a controller.
I had that same issue where my finger would shake a little too much, and I'd shoot when I don't want to shoot.
But I've found many different ways to try and adapt a controller to games that do not support it. I had used a program that would adapt the PS3 controller, to keyboard and mouse emulation, and that was pretty functional for a while. The best thing I liked about the PS3 controller is its portability. Some people it's too small, but if you need to take it on the go, it's nice, lightweight, good battery charge for its size. And then eventually it involved a demonstration I was putting on a console alternative computer that was kind of a pre-Steam box, so to speak. The Logitech F710, which I was using Logitech software to emulate keyboard and mouse. And it was okay, but as some people already know on some of the failings of Logitech software, their hardware is incredible, their firmware is pretty good, their software...
what are you talking about? Logitech's perfect in every way.
Morty's familiar with this one.
Sorry, Logitech pays me too much money to say otherwise.
I actually gave up on its automatic profile switching and created a universal command to adapt game settings to fit with it.
And the 310, I tried that same thing, and it didn't go well.
Changed from that. I've been readapting the way I set up controller layouts for keyboard and mouse. I was running the Steam beta for their newest option on mouse zoning, like where you tap a zone of the touchpad, and it will instantly put the mouse in that zone. I did not get a chance to try that out yet because, one, I have no RTS games in my layout. Yeah. Your Razer. I have a Razer.
My mouse is going to break in 2 months.
The stick is constantly moving forward. The left trigger won't let go. And I had to put metal springs in place of the broken plastic springs on the bumpers.
Thank you, Razer.
Is that the
that's the
Sabertooth?
Good old thumbstick sticking up.
Look at the triggers. I don't know how well this shows up here, but it's got the extra triggers here, customizable, and the extra bumper buttons here, which was great in its design. It's comfortable. The design features are great. The bumper plastic springs broke in about 4 months. I fixed those. The metal springs have lasted a while, and just everything has kept breaking one after another over the course of a little more than a year.
And that's a Razer, right?
That's Razer, yeah.
That's Razer.
That's Razer in a nutshell.
Well, I was 6 months.
I was going to say, great features, great comfort, poor durability.
Yeah,
I was going to cheap Chinese imports.
I don't know. My Death Adder is almost 6 months old. Best mouse I've ever used.
That's because you haven't used a good gaming Logitech controller or mouse.
I had the F3 310.
That's
I didn't like it.
no. Logitech mouse.
Oh,
Well, I'm gonna say I have some
Yeah,
personal.
like this one that I finally followed suit on Morty with.
I'm
I
not.
have some
I'm just not big in
personal
Logitech. I don't have
Yeah.
anything against them, but I like Corsair and Razer.
Yeah.
I have some personal experience with this in that I've talked to a businessman who has some pretty close ties with Razer, and he said
You
that
heard it
he's
here first. Travis sold out to a corporate shell.
well,
That
no,
was slavery.
no. Razer
He works for
acknowledges that
McDonald's.
Razer acknowledges that they have, like, they don't say it, but they know they don't have the best build quality. Like, this is not an
At
unknown
least they're
thing.
transparent about it.
Yeah.
We don't care
Uh,
if it breaks in 6 months. It looks beautiful.
and in all honesty, as a company, as Razer moves forward, I think that they're going to eventually be forced to increase their build quality. They're good at making nice designs, and their marketing scheme is I'm not sure.
It's pretty. It's just it's flashy.
Yeah, it's flashy, and it caters to
It's
a certain
flashy
And
and
if
it's
there's one
functional.
thing
It's just
that
functional.
aesthetic and cosmetic microtransactions has taught me, it's that gamers are fucking vain. We love
Yeah.
our shit to just look pretty.
Yep.
We love our weed
Absolutely.
camo in Call of Duty.
Yep.
We'll pay $10, $20 to get a skin or two for character models.
All I'm saying is that the one thing that helped me with my PC gaming was this gorgeous piece of hardware that I will never go without.
Okay,
It
let
is,
me wait like 15 seconds so I can actually see it.
Oh, I know.
You
I
can
gotta
talk
wait.
about that.
By the way,
He's already showed us, right?
By the way, I wish that I could get paid for advertising this because I would. The main reason for my whole complaint with
I see it
PC
now.
gaming is actually thumbstick. This little thumbstick here, I can map WASD to it, so I just move with my thumb.
How much did you spend on it?
Nothing.
It's like $100. They're
Nope,
like $150.
no, they're not. No, they're not. They're 60.
Still,
They are?
that's 60.
I thought it
Yes.
was $150 for Amazon.
Yeah,
$60, and you don't have to
$60.
buy a $120 gaming keyboard.
See, I like my $100 mechanical keyboard though.
Yeah,
I love my
your $100
K70.
mechanical keyboard. I spent
It's so
total of $75 for the combo.
See, I would spend $100 on the keyboard just for typing. Like I just like typing with a mechanical keyboard.
See, my
I would
Microsoft
say not
Sidewinder
the
keyboard.
MX Red switches, though, they're too soft.
Yeah,
I
depends.
love my K70. I absolutely love
But
it.
you get
You
the
know
MX
something else?
Blue. It's better
you know
for typing.
something else you know something else you can spend $60 on an Xbox controller.
I didn't spend that
Yeah,
much
but
on
the
mine.
thing
I
is-
got the I got a 360 controller with the little wireless adapter
but
for
let's
$25.
Yeah, well,
Love
but here's the thing: is that so one of the things about the Logitech here, and this is kind of where the point was going, is that what this allows is, unlike a controller, it has 22 buttons on the face here, plus 3 profile switch buttons up here to switch between any of the profiles on this. Then it has 2 more buttons down here that are right next to the joystick, which has 5 buttons on the joystick. Controllers don't have nearly that many buttons, so it gives me all the effectiveness of using a keyboard. Now, the Steam controller, the difference between your Xbox controller and the Steam controller is the Steam controller does a better job, from what I'm understanding from Siphon, at emulating some of the standard PC functions. And that was kind of where I was going. Like, your normal Xbox controller, pretty much, it's games. You can
Like
and only
using
certain
a stick for mouse emulation, you've got delay of tracking. Some programs have a lot better acceleration emulation, mouse acceleration, and some of them are very customizable. The latest program I was using was called Anti-Micro. It had some bugs on buttons letting go here and there, but its mouse emulation was one of the best on a joystick that I've actually dealt with, because you could have custom tweaked mouse acceleration on there. It took away from all right, I have the stick to the edge. Now I'm waiting for the cursor to drag from one end of the screen to the other, or, move your point of view around, whatever you're doing. The balance way around it is the flick feature. It's closer compared to using a trackball than a mouse or a touchpad, because you go like that and it'll just roll it across, and you can custom tweak those settings on how much resistance, how fast the ball spins, how long it takes to slow down, and such and so forth. You could use that. You can turn it off. You can have it try and emulate a stick, but it's a little wonky because you've got throughout, I'd say about 50% of the center of the pad moves very slow, very detailed, and then you hit the edge and all of a sudden it's full speed. You can also going back to the mouse emulation, you can set it up so that if you hold your finger at the edges, it will continually track the cursor in that same direction, and as opposed to just sitting still once you hit the end of the pad. There's a few different options on it. Some games I have it do both the trackball and the edge track on there. I do not use the joystick emulation at all. So far, the software on it is incomplete. It needs some work, or it just never will work. Mouse emulation, though, works both on dealing with a cursor, works great on controlling a cursor in most cases. And it does pretty damn good on stick emulation for like an FPS point of view. I have run into some issues. This is with me because I kind of need a little bit. I need to turn down the sensitivity on things because it jumps around too much. The shaky hand syndrome goes also with shaky thumb syndrome. I was noticing I have a little bit too vertical movement.
One second. Thank you, Kev, for having your mic right next to the keyboard again.
It's across the desk.
Anyway, as you were
Those
saying,
blue
Sean.
Switches. Yes, those Cherry MX blue switches. But mouse emulation is the best I've dealt with so far. The stick in there has a couple of more options. It does not have pressure-sensitive buttons on the standard buttons, but where it needs to, you have, like, say, you can have a center click effect on the mouse, or you can have, either of the touchpads. Both of the touchpads are functionally and hardware identical. This one has a little bit of a indent edge on a plus symbol, like a control pad, but other than that, the hardware functionality of both of these is identical, and you can have both of them use mouse. You can even have the stick emulate a mouse too, but I've already discussed issues on joysticks emulating a mouse. But like these buttons here do not have any analog function behind them. Your bumpers and various others don't have analog function. The triggers are also another benefit where you pull the trigger a little bit, and I just killed the video feed that I had, so I'm not seeing Morty for a minute now. You pull the trigger a little bit. Yeah, you have a dual stage trigger. You can completely control the desktop, as I accidentally left-clicked on something. The way I currently have my desktop set up is... Whoa, I'm going to bust it. The grip buttons on the back, the right grip button is right click, so I have more or less a right click, left click effect. But left click, I pull the trigger a little bit and it just left clicks. If I pull it down until it clicks all the way, it's like a double click effect without having to tap it twice. Because you can assign two different functions to each of the triggers, and that's just looking at the bump stops on the trigger. They're dual stage triggers. You could also have secondary modes on any given button where you have a designated mode shift key, and it can vary for any given portion you want it to, where it can do a secondary function. A great mode shifting is like, say, using the left touchpad. You have just tapping it, the cardinal directions, you have up, down, left, and right arrows. However, if you push in and click, you can set the mode shift for clicking the pad, and then assign the cardinal directions to, say, have page up, page down, home, and end. So when you touch it, it'll have arrows. When you push it, click it in those same directions, you have your page up, page down, home, and end. So it has a great amount of variability behind it. Unless you absolutely hate controllers, if you use them sometimes, for a price of $50, I'd definitely recommend trying it out at some point in time.
So do the triggers on it have customizable reset, I believe?
What do you mean by customizable reset?
As in,
You mean the hair trigger? Like where you essentially twist
there's
it, tweak it down?
well, I mean,
there's
you
no
pull
physical
you pull the trigger, and then, like a reset on a firearm, right? Whenever you release the trigger, there's a certain point in time between where it resets to where you pull it again and it activates a second time. Like on the Xbox controllers, there's usually a certain place where the reset is, you have to let out a little bit and then.
Well, that is software. There's no way to modify the hardware on this without physically taking it apart. But you pull the trigger a little bit, and then you
But
pull
that
it.
is customizable
It's about a
through the
millimeter
software.
more, and it clicks. And that's the second stage of the trigger, about 1 millimeter click range. Your software options, you have 3 basic options. There's hair trigger or standard threshold, which is the effect of, like, say, if you have aim and fire on the same trigger. You pull it in, it starts to aim, you click, and then it fires.
Wow,
Standard
that's awesome.
threshold and hair trigger has the effect of always holding the first stage even while you're doing the second stage.
Yeah.
So always be aiming down the sights.
Yeah.
Then there is the.
I think you just
I
sold
should
me
say
that
2
controller,
basic
by the way.
options. Well,
Yeah,
there's the
but-
hip fire option.
Real quick,
What?
Real quick, can you go ahead and hold the controller up a little closer to the camera there so they can see that it has a thumbstick as well as the touchpads? See
Yes.
the thumbstick
We saw
there?
the thumbstick.
Yeah.
He was the only one who was
Kev
on. Yeah.
apparently did not.
No, I didn't say anything about the thumbstick. He was saying it looked like there was 2 touchpads. I was saying
There
the
is.
left touchpad is more like a D-pad.
Yeah, it is.
It's
No,
no,
that's
the
all-
left
that's
touch.
all-
Well, let me clarify, and this is a complaint some people have. You might not be able to see. Let me angle the reflection of light on there. There's a very slight indentation on there in a cross pattern that you can kind of feel when you rub your thumb across
Yeah, I
it.
can see it.
But for the most part, usually you develop muscle memory on working with the cardinal directions instead of trying to rely on feeling that, as opposed to an Xbox controller. 'Cause I don't know if that lighting showed up right. So
I
It,
just
it
like-
shows up. I see it.
I like the idea.
I've used it a little bit. My only issue is I couldn't get used to not having 2 analog sticks, having that one.
It took me a minute to get over that one, and I was thinking,
Yeah.
like,
That
should be-
felt weird for me. Other than that, it's a pretty decent controller.
I can tell you right now that you will get over that once you get used to how awesome the right touchpad is. Compared to like using mouse emulation as opposed to doing a stick function with the right stick.
Yeah, I'm not
I
even looking to buy one yet. I just wanted to try
I
it.
had some struggles with it, but when you practice with it and adjust the settings that is the right level for you, like if you have too much vertical movement while you're trying to do horizontal movement, you can adjust that ratio off of a 1-to-1, which is what I did. It's like a 1 to 1.7 or something like that is where I have, with a ratio of 1 movement horizontal, it's got a 0.7 of vertical.
Yeah, well, and this is kind of something that I was on there is that so I'm obviously I'm a big fan of Xbox.
I want to say one quick thing about the trigger real quick. The hip fire function on the trigger. If you set it to hip fire, you pull it real quick for a full click, for a full pull as they label it in the settings, it will bypass your primary threshold. So like say if you have aim and fire, you hold aim and then fire, it'll aim down the sights and fire. If you tap it real quick, it'll fire from the hip.
Okay, so it's kind of got.
And as far as your release effect, you have different settings on that where you can let it out a little bit, but still be holding it down and just barely move your finger.
Can we bring up
the amount of thought that got put into this?
Can we just identify that it's 2015, and this stuff is an innovation? It's like, why haven't we been able to customize controllers? And there's
we have been.
A lot of
I don't think realize the PS1 had a lot of binding options on the original PlayStation.
Well, no,
I'm talking about nowadays. Like I go to some games come out don't even have controller support, and it's like
right. But that's kind of my point. Like, PC has been there forever, but even like once the PS2 era came about, they started removing the customization from console.
Yeah, which was.
Well, here's
options that were there.
This is kind of something I was kind of going for on here is that as I'm kind of I've been a big proponent of the Xbox controller design in the offset stick patterns, which we know they developed. I'm pretty certain because
Halo.
Sony had the DualShock design patented, and I think that's better for it because now me personally, I can use the DualShock design. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I just personally felt more comfortable using.
Microsoft wasn't the first one to do that offset.
No, it was Dreamcast.
Sega was.
Yeah,
yes.
Sega I think had the design pattern
like
on it.
the physical design of the offset sticks and the actual triggers that look like triggers.
Yeah,
right. And it's everybody has a preference. Like this time around, I love the 360 controller. 360 controller is my favorite controller ever. But I love the DualShock 4.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that the Xbox One really, they knew they had something good. Unfortunately enough, they didn't screw with it too much. The Elite
It feels
controller,
smaller. It feels way smaller.
yeah, it's a little bit, and it's not a lot. I actually had them because my brother-in-law, who's on, actually has an Xbox One. I have my 360 controller. I literally had them side by side, and I was like, it feels a little bit more compact in certain ways, but it's actually not really that much smaller.
I don't know. Like, I play with mine all the time, and like I have the Xbox One, and I'm like, nah, this thing feels too damn small.
But
school original Xbox One controller.
The Xbox One before Xbox One was cool.
Yeah.
Versus when Xbox One was cool.
No.
Oh man, those original Xbox controllers.
I don't know if any of you guys ever had this experience on the Xbox 360, but I've got the old chat pad for the 360.
I have
that too.
It is one of the most useful. It is one of the most useful things.
So much better than PlayStation 3's chat pad. Good God, that thing was.
Yeah, I got one of those too. I can't dig it up right now. I buried it all away.
And I'm just like, and I haven't seen anything that is quite on the level of just like how good it really is. And I never take it off.
Yeah,
because it feels almost exactly the same in the controller. And I'm surprised that more of this type of dual functionality, given how much consoles are with social, they have like all this social media and stuff. Like, why don't we have chat pads for the Xbox One where you can?
Xbox One does have one.
Yeah.
You can buy one for the Xbox One.
See if you
is it proprietary or is it?
I believe it is proprietary. I don't think there's one for Sony.
Let's see if you can see.
There's one for Xbox
If I can break my desk. See if you can. Damn that! My thing won't stop rotating. The chat functionality is kind of like a smartphone touchscreen, except it's split in half using both pads. You move it around and select the letter, and then you click down to actually click it in. I think your image quality is poor on this, but I'm sure somebody's got a video posted somewhere on chatting with the Steam controller. It is great. It's a little confusing sometimes on which hand you got to do, left side or right side, but you get used to it real quick, especially if you type on a full QWERTY keyboard on your smartphone all the time where you just use your thumbs and you tap it back and forth rapidly. It's quite easy to get used to, as I've discovered. There's some hurdles here and there. It's far faster than any other software-only or controller-based typing without a chat pad.
Yeah, I mean that is pretty cool. I want to see a touchscreen chat pad. I think that would be
the PS3 actually had a touchpad thing on the top of it, but it was kind of
PS3 did.
Yeah, it had a touchpad thing.
Hang on.
I know the PS4 does.
No, the chat pad actually was also a kind of like a touchpad thing. I know it because I was messing with Xiphons before, and I was like, that is silly. But in any case, though, something I'm like, I kind of want to bring up on here. Yeah, that guy. That's the one I was talking about. That guy
will make more sense than the Xbox One. The Xbox One on the bottom.
How weird is that to hold? How weird is that to hold in your hand?
Yeah, no, it actually made less sense.
The thing is with the PS controller design, if you had a pad down here, is very awkward.
Yeah.
Whereas having it up here is a lot easier. So it's
I guess you can
just
see
as well as the Xbox does. It has
feel like the Xbox One
has a mouse emulator touchpad that if you just rub your finger across it acts like a mouse touchpad.
Yeah, essentially each button's a sensor.
But what I want to know is like, how quick is the transition on that controller from typing back to stick? Because on the Xbox controller, it's very, very quick. You don't have to do very much hand movement to move from the chat pad to the sticks.
On the PS3 or the Steam controller?
For the PS3 one?
For the PS3.
There's a little bit more movement compared to the Xbox One, but it's as comfortable as it's going to get with the PS3 controller.
Yeah.
Right.
Now do better for that controller design.
But the thing
How
is...
about getting to the shoulder buttons? That's where I would think it would kind of get in the way of that.
It's not that bad, actually. It depends on your grip style. It forces you to adjust if you have like an over style grip like this, like that, it's going to get in the way.
Oh,
but if you hold it more naturally to the sides, then it won't cause a problem.
Yeah, but
it's Bluetooth wireless, so you can actually set it up for computer use. This is the shoulders right there, and then the triggers.
Oh, okay.
It's not too terribly bad.
But the thing I was going with that Steam controller is kind of like the Xbox and the PlayStation. You know, everybody's got their little flavor that they prefer. But largely, they're still the same. They're twin stick designs. You know, they've got their 4 face buttons, 2 sticks, start and select, or start and back, or whatever it is now. 4 shoulder buttons, and they marginally are about the same as far as that goes. The Steam controller has considerably more to it. Now, with the Elite controller that Xbox released, obviously they add those back buttons, but those back buttons on there, the grip buttons.
They're entirely macros.
Well, no, I think on the Xbox One, it's the same as the Sabertooth, where it more or less just emulates buttons on the front. Whereas the Steam controller...
To existing keys.
Now, with the Steam controller, can you actually macro the grip buttons to separate things than the face buttons?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you go through the software, you can customize each and every single button except for that one. Mm-hmm. That turns the controller on and off, brings up your Steam menu, things like that. That's dedicated button for Steam use only. I'm okay with it. Your start and select button, so to speak, or start and back, whatever you want to call it, mappable. This is mappable. I can map this to mouse, cardinal directions, D-pad. I can map it to these kind of fire keys right here. This, I can map that. I can make this the mouse. This can be cardinal directions. I can do cardinal directions on the triggers. I can do trigger functions on this. It goes all over the place. There's a few restrictions here and there, but very, very few.
Yeah.
One few is you can only map so many things to these style buttons. You can only, you can only map so many things to the grips. But again, it's especially if you do direct keyboard. And most of those limitations come to within game options itself. If the game has official support like Warframe does, you're mapping a named function versus a keyboard key. If you're mapping a keyboard key, there's pretty much no rules.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, where I was going to go with that, though, is that, and this is kind of going into our evergreen topic on here, and something I've heard a lot is people don't like the Steam controller. And the reason for that is because it's different.
People don't like change.
Yeah.
Isn't that why everybody bitches about Nintendo controllers these days?
When they failed,
they're too different.
Something that I have to
on Windows 8 and learned from it when they came out with the Xbox One controller nearly identical to the 360.
Yeah. What was that, Travis?
Something I think that the Steam controller is. Steam controller, it's made for a different audience than a proprietary console controller is made for. Because
mostly yes.
Mostly yeah. Yes, it's usable, but to really dig into the technology and to use it to its fullest, you have to be somebody that wants that control, wants that type of being able to
not be a peasant.
Customize it to how you want it. Take the time.
No, you need to be like a Linux user, is what he's saying. This is like the Linux of controllers.
Instead of just taking remap controller, putting it in your hands, and going away.
No, you know what? I'm going to agree with Kev. It's exactly like the Linux of controllers. You know why? It has superior potential capabilities to it, but is horribly misunderstood by peasants. That's exactly what Linux is. So you were spot on,
Linux
Kev.
is it still doesn't have enough support for...
One of the biggest downsides I see, which is not something against me, but dealing in the computer business, there's a lot of people out there that don't like to customize everything. They want everything ready to go out of the box.
Right. I've met like a few people like that. Like one of my buddies, shout out to Dre. He built a PC recently, but when I was first talking to him about it, he was like, "I don't really want to customize anything. I just want it to work."
What a pain.
And no, he didn't understand. He's not used to that level of customization. Once you saw him, Joe, he was in the high res group asking about it like over the summer. Mm-hmm. Once he actually got down and saw, this is what you can actually do. He was like, oh, shit, why didn't I choose sooner?
Is his system liquid nitrogen cooled yet?
No. I don't think he's upgraded that. He has a Skylake i7 and a 980. And I don't think he's upgraded.
It looks like a giant glowing ice box.
Yeah, it does. But hey, he says that's New York. He likes that.
Yeah, but the thing that I kind of say about that is that, with the Steam controller, it's a lot more I guess, forefront on the consumer market than like Linux is. Linux kind of hides in the background of a lot of people.
Well, see, that's another thing is, okay, a way of comparing it to Linux is you see this. These are all different console systems, controllers. Saying it was the Linux of controllers is saying all 4 of those controllers are Linux controllers.
Yeah.
Linux is everything.
I was meaning like Linux gives you like the utmost control that you want.
Yes.
As opposed, like that to a point, like, but then you have to understand some people aren't going to support it. Like, I'd go Linux. I think Linux looks great once you wrap your head around it. At first, I think you guys even heard me say a few weeks ago, they're saying I hate Linux. Now the only reason I won't go Linux is because I don't want to have 2 S's for games. Yeah, support. Yeah. I don't want to worry about driver support, and I don't want to have to worry about if I play game going to play on Linux. You can use Wine. I don't really want to deal with Wine when I know Windows works, and I'm still going to get better performance on Windows.
Like if all
Wine
this stuff
isn't entirely reliable either. I've done a lot with that before, and Wine is very limited, and especially the newest AAA games that come out, you're not going to have Wine support on those right away.
Yeah.
Right, and I play the newest AAA games generally right around the time they come out, most of the time.
Play on Linux.
For me, that's why I'm like Linux probably isn't viable for me.
By Wine.
Well, the thing is that with this controller though, it's got kind of more forefront, and the thing is that everybody the problem is that it has a learning curve, and a lot of your gamers who are either one of 2 markets, either their controller markets or their mouse and keyboard markets, and if they are either one of those 2 markets, that means they have to relearn essentially a lot of how they utilize their peripheral. Now, the thing is that you like the theoretical thing that I love about this controller, though, is the way it bridges the divide between keyboard and mouse and controllers. Because playing a shooter with any,
it could have been done more smoothly.
Yeah, well, the thing is that here's where I'm going with this. So you ever talk to a PC gamer about first-person shooters? They say
you don't play it without playing on mouse and keyboard. Period.
Because the mouse is just so much more accurate, more fast, blah blah blah.
And then I saw dudes getting busy in that Black Ops 3 beta with the controller on PC.
Well, but the thing is though, is that it is fundamentally accurate that a twin stick controller is going to be slower to react because of its acceleration speed. Guess what has customizable touchpad acceleration to it?
And the zoning options.
And the zoning options. So you can quick snap like 180 no scope like a pro champ at Call of Duty while you're cheating. Mind you, no scoping with the dual stage controller, where the first stage is your scope in and your second stage is fire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which you can easily bypass to a quick hip fire.
Of the scrubs.
Yeah, but I know. I'm making a joke there. But my point is that touchpad emulating the mouse is a huge thing.
Here's the thing. It's not the first time somebody's done a touchpad on a controller. I don't know more if you remember the SNES touchpad and how horrendous that thing was.
So bad, we broke it.
Oh my god!
Mortal Kombat or Super? No, sorry, it was Super. The other fighting game. God damn.
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. Yes, it was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. By the way, that broke that controller. Edmund Honda. Screw you, Zyphon. That's all I gotta say.
Wait,
and your 100-handed punch blocking me in the corner.
Wasn't there
Sega Genesis Master Race?
No, I'm kidding. I think I did it to him, honestly.
Of the Vita? Seemed like the Vita had something.
Yes, but it wasn't exactly the same way. It was kind of limited in its function because a lot of people aren't going to be as dexterous with their middle fingers as they are going to be their thumbs.
Something I'd like to say about like the possible success of the Steam controller is, and something that might harm it, in what I said of it being kind of for a different market, and this is kind of a failing that Steam often has, or not Steam, Valve often has, is that their lack of their lack of advertisement. Their lack of advertisement.
Yeah, and not only that,
when you're selling something physical like a controller, yes, it might be kind of for a different market, but you can still have a good default configuration, but you still need marketing to sell to this group of people.
So funny. We
I'm,
complain
their
about
marketing, their
advertising, but then we
Valve
acknowledge that they
Valve
tell
could
people.
very
their,
very
their
easily
marketing is
put out
off
some
in
high
general.
speed, low drag
Right.
commercials
Yeah, but I
for.
mean, even like with the advertising, like the Steam machines and the Steam Link, people think that a Steam Link is like a PC replacement. When all it is like more like a PC add-on. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't advertise these very well. The
Yeah.
Steam machines, like actually, I was talking to another YouTuber, Wiggy Gaming. He was asking me about the Steam machines because he said, you know, there's horribly advertised. He didn't know one thing from the other, but he doesn't really want to build a PC. He's not very tech savvy that way, in his words.
Yeah.
So he said, you know, he wants to have something, you know, that's pre-built and done. He's been gaming on consoles since the Atari, so he just wanted to have something that just set up and go.
Yeah.
And the Steam machines blew his mind because he doesn't know the technology and he doesn't really want to learn it.
The thing is the Steam Link was essentially, as I understood it, essentially a streaming box that allowed you to stream your PC to your TV, and that was
That's
it.
exactly what it is. That's exactly what Steam Link
that's all. And the name, honestly though, you got to kind of read the name and take it at face value. Steam controller, Steam box, Steam Link. They're pretty straightforward. Steam Link, it links Steam to your TV. Steam controller, controls Steam.
And you
right? Yeah, I don't know. I can see that to a non-tech savvy person being confusing.
Yeah.
And I'm to the point where it's like, yeah, keep it simple for those who just don't know.
You know,
Not everybody's in the know.
you know what you
the Steam controller,
go
like
ahead.
the software range of things, which has lots of options, is a bit like the Wild West. Right now, one, you have to have Steam running for the controller to function. There may be ways around that, but I haven't tested those out yet because Steam auto starts when I start up my machine anyway. But Steam has to be running for it to apply the profiles, and it's got a desktop use profile for any individual games. Some game developers have support, like Warframe. I know I go back to that one a lot, but
because Digital Extremes is
the
awesome.
developers of Warframe Digital Extremes have actually got themselves a Steam controller and set up a controller layout for it. Many of the other games I've played do not. Now, counter to that, there's a lot of community support, especially if it's a popular game, whether it's new or old. If there's still a lot of people playing it, they got a hold of the Steam controller, they put out their own layout for it.
I'd be interested to see.
There's also a problem with the community support. You have the only information you have is their brief, short description. There's only so much room. Their title, their short description, and how many people are using it. There's no, and the only way to check it out is to activate it, wipe out whatever profile you're using currently, and select theirs and test it out. Otherwise, something that would greatly help that is a rating system and maybe even a feedback system and a way to filter out through that.
Well,
as far as community support effect when there's no developer support.
Yeah, that kind of brings us full circle to the news story of the guy on Reddit that developed a Steam controller profile that was specifically for one-handed use in Skyrim, trying to be able to do everything in Skyrim with one hand.
And I see that as very possible. It would be a pain in the ass to set up and tricky to learn, very tricky to learn, but this is the controller to do it with.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of potential there.
Your only other option on that is to get like a 12-button MMO mouse and try and map everything to do everything on just that mouse.
Yeah, Logitech. Oh wait, sorry, Kev. You would want to get the Naga.
The Naga. Yeah, the Naga.
Well, there's
the
also
Naga I didn't like.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't like the Naga.
I
didn't like the Naga, so.
Corsair has their own version of it too.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, yeah, I go for Corsair. I didn't know Corsair had one.
Yeah, Corsair has good quality, build quality to them in most cases.
Yes, I like Corsair. I
Unlike
like Razer also. I like Razer also.
Yeah, that's okay. You'll be replacing it very soon.
Right
Right after your warranty's out.
I take care of my things. It'll probably last me another 3-4 years.
But in any case, there. So I guess what the final question I'll pose here, because we got to start wrapping up here, is: do you think that as this becomes more widespread and more people use the Steam controller and get a chance to actually get on the learning curve of it, do you think that it's actually going to become a bigger thing, or like say the Xbox 2 and the PS5. Do you think they're going to try to incorporate touchpad technologies and more button combinations like this? Or do you think they're...
Touchpads
I
everywhere.
see people jumping on board with that one as they get more used to it.
We're just gonna eventually have a Matrix where you're just like jack in, and then no controllers.
I'm down for that. Just digitize my consciousness now, and I'll live forever. I'll be on all your computers, watching you all the time.
We're all going to be Cortana.
Oh man.
Anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and get our final thoughts in there. We'll go ahead and start with Kev. Give us your final thoughts for the day.
My final thoughts. I hope they fix Rainbow Six Siege.
Nope.
The Steam
Ubisoft.
sale. Yeah, it's Ubisoft. So I have it's even messed up on the consoles. I'm hoping they can at least connect the matches because this is ridiculous. The game is out in a couple days and it's still messed up. Otherwise, they're going to be back on my shit list. Even though I think AC Unity or not Unity Syndicate is still a good port. What else? Steam sale. It's going on now till the 3rd, and there have been some okay deals on there.
I've heard it's pretty subpar compared to other sales from.
Well, the last few have been, but I think it's just because everyone else is caught up. Like all the other sites have caught up, and now you're trying to keep up with gray key sites. Like trying to keep up with a gray key site when a lot of time games are releasing at Steam sale prices. It's kind of you know, they're going to seem not as good.
Yeah.
But when you catch a good Steam sale, jump on it. And Green Man Gaming's having a good sale too. I think Gamersgate is too. So there's good sales all over. I've even seen a couple on Amazon. Let's get Joe back on Twitch. Hashtag get Joe on Twitch.
Yeah.
And let's get Travis on to that.
As long as you're hosting the stream,
Hitbox.
I'm all right with going on
Hitbox.
Twitch. I just don't. I can't
Travis can go on Hitbox and stream Dota
I want to get
24
Travis
hours a
off
day.
that. I also want getting Travis off that potato. Get him on that 970. Get him on a 390. Something.
And I mean, you know, and leading from that, I guess I'll give my final thoughts in that, you know, Sean here, he's really hard selling that Steam controller to me because you're making it tough, man. Because
Did you notice that when he was holding it, he was even like giving the hand gestures like he was the model
The
holding
Vanna
it.
White shit.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah, and
Val,
now I
such
really want
reach.
it, but you know, those priorities, you know, Christmas first.
Do
Gotta
your
bring family
priorities, but
first.
if you got spare money for it, I recommend it.
Then I got my car. Then I got fix my potato, and then maybe Steam controller, and hopefully by then they'll have all this, you know, profile stuff sorted out.
Well, by then
be
the
good-
new
good
Nvidia
times.
cards will be out, and the 900 series will be cheap because the new Nvidia cards coming out in March.
I think
It's
so.
like March, April.
Hey
Well,
man, that's
then I
just
know
in
I'm
time.
going to be
just
waiting
in time
until
for tax
those
returns,
cards
right?
come out. Yeah. Tax returns.
Just in time for tax returns.
Exactly.
Joe, go ahead and give us your final thoughts about how you're going to be on Twitch soon.
December 2nd, update 18 for Warframe.
And
Many
he's gonna be
changes
streaming
coming. This is the time to get into Warframe.
If you're not streaming it, we're not interested.
Yeah, you
Get
got to
Joe
be
on
streaming.
Twitch.
You got to get yourself on Twitch, man. Get that streaming.
You want to host a stream? I'll appear on it all you want.
We want you to have
Yeah,
your own
though.
Twitch. Get Joe on his own Twitch.
Yeah. At some point, maybe we'll all migrate this to Twitch and abandon YouTube. So
like
that
YouTube.
way,
Maybe I'll just dual
For
stream it.
live streaming.
well, no, my thought is, and this is something we'll talk about a bit more, is the fact that YouTube gaming and YouTube streaming in general. I hope someone from YouTube listens to this. I
won't.
doubt it, though. Yeah, I doubt it. They have no hosting option, whereas on Twitch, you know, I can host somebody else. Host someone else's live stream, and people that come to my channel see that other stream. So it's kind of like it funnels it.
Yeah, I used to do that on some of the Wii Game Here streams where we would have like 5 or 6 of us, and we're like 4 of them would be playing Battlefield. I'd be playing something completely different, and somebody else would be playing something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of cool, and you could just pick who you wanted to watch from the multi-stream.
Yeah, exactly. But Zyphon, go ahead and give us your final thoughts.
You kind of know where this is going. Priorities first. If you happen to have a spare $50 and you use a gaming controller for PC gaming, pick up a Steam controller.
So how
If
much
you-
does
somebody
Valve
would be
pay
interested
to
get it
be
for
a
a gift
show?
for them?
Yeah.
I may not be getting paid
McDonald's.
by Valve for this, but I think it's worthwhile. It's been
So we
one
got
of-
people now corporate shilling for Logitech, Valve, and apparently I'm doing it for Razer.
Well, I mean, Valve
Pay for
doesn't.
this.
Valve
I mean,
doesn't.
this, damn it.
Valve doesn't advertise anyways, so we
Valve
gotta
doesn't
get
have to
this
pay for
new
shills.
technology out
People line
somewhere.
up to kiss that
Praise
ass,
gaming.
like
Yeah.
Kev.
Like Kev in his blind
You don't have
admiration
to
of
pay him
Gaben.
shit.
Razer, on the other hand, desperately needs people to shill for them because after their fiasco at that one fighter gaming tournament where the guy's Razer fighting stick broke on him, and the only thing anybody had was not Razer. I think it was like Corsair or something like that, and Corsair had to say hi, say thank you for catching us there. But I'll go ahead and give my final thoughts here. You guys should know me by now. If not, if you're watching on Kev's channel tomorrow, then you're welcome to come check me out. That's Mortiel. Hey, it's right on the screen there. You can take a look and see how it's spelled if you get confused. I do a bunch of guides and walkthroughs on a couple of different video games, soon to be more, and so on. But I also occasionally harass people in the chat of the live stream, which has been Cats this whole stream, harassing him on GoldenEye for the N64 and how I was better at it than he was. Yes, you heard right. Actually, I didn't say that at all until just now. But
You just use the broken character. Let's all be honest here.
Yeah,
Yep.
Morty
Odd
was a
job.
cheeser.
Odd job. Come on, man. Odd job with a golden gun wins every
Nothing but
time.
cheese. Nothing but cheese.
Yeah.
so short.
But in any case,
Chest and a headshot.
Nothing but
He-
cheese. That's probably the tagline for Star Wars Battlefront.
no, this is complete bullshit. Is the tagline for anybody that bought Battlefront? But in
Actually,
any
I want
case,
Battlefront. I want to get my hands on it. A lot of people that actually have the game are enjoying it.
Star Wars cheese front.
yeah, something like
Like,
that.
the only people I hear complaining are the people who haven't bought the game. And I haven't heard anybody who
TB
actually played the game.
TB's played it and he hated it.
TB
That's
didn't
all I
pay
need to
for
know.
it. And TB was getting his ass whooped. And you were complaining about it before TB put his video out.
In any case, so moving on back to my final thoughts of having nothing to do with Battlefront, because I could give a shit less, whatever. Could give a shit less about that game. I definitely, hopefully, be getting into some more guides here very soon for the December season, because there's going to be at least one Warframe guide that I'm going to be putting up that's going to be pretty awesome, and I know that Zyphon already knows what it is, but we'll leave
That was inspiration on that one.
yeah, so we'll leave that little secret there for you guys to check out on my channel. I definitely welcome you to subscribe if you guys get a chance, if you like what I'm putting up on there. And Kev, of course, tries to steal all of my content ideas, and he fails miserably at it. I might
I
add.
haven't done a build guide in how long?
He's never done a build guide. Oh no,
I did build guides on Dragon Age.
Yeah, like
And
you did.
then they went on vacation, and so did I.
All the
Yeah,
time.
top 10 list, man. That's what you
Damn,
gotta
those
do.
things get the views.
You'll get huge. But in any case, on that note, we'll go ahead and sign off here for the night, and we'll go ahead and catch you guys next week on the Pixel Crashers podcast.